Hi, thanks for joining me. My name's Graham Cruz from Cruz Commercial Consultants. Uh, Today I'm going to go through some business planning tools and some techniques and show you how to build and develop some of these things and things to consider, and balancing the difference between what I refer to as macro and micro, which is the top line business plan and the action plans underneath it. In the current climate, more than ever, you need to know what direction your business is going down, because the markets are changing so significantly in terms of both economics and globalization. So, what are your optimum routes to market and what alternatives might there be? What are your most profitable options? That might be by product, that might be by client, it might be by category, it might be by production options. What are your channels? What are your markets? Again, you need to manage the interaction between all of those, both on a macro level and on a local level. What are the risks and opportunities? This is a key thing for me, is to understand what lies ahead of you in the business year, so that you can make contingency plans. Are you overexposed on one or two customers? Are there competitors looking like they're going to enter into the market? So, flip side of that, how are you going to react, and what are the opportunities that are there? Have you got from this, can you develop a profile for your ideal client and customer? Are there other customers similar to that you are not dealing with that you can target? So a whole range of things that you can look at. And most importantly, you need to have a tool that is flexible enough that allows you to simply do what if scenarios to see the implications of all of those in a worst case and a best case scenario, looking at in terms of both volume, value, and profit in terms of contribution. The sales value is vanity, but profit is sanity, and that's what keeps your business going forward. So what do I mean by a macro business plan? This is what most companies have got. It's a top line business plan of what they're aiming to do and how they want their business to grow. Uh, the analogy I have, it's a bit like a house. Now, an architect's plan is a lot more detailed, but in principle, you know how you want your business to look, so it's going to grow by 10% or whatever it's going to be. And we all know what that looks like. Obviously, clearly, I can't draw a house, that's quite clear. But what it is showing you is the outline. The business plan is showing you the outline of how the business should look. Normally, under the macro business model, you've then got accounts are going to do this, production are going to do this, marketing are going to do this, sales are going to do this, and the individual silos build up to try and reinforce the top line macro. So almost the pillars building up to support the ceiling or the target that you're after. The micro business plan is slightly different, and going back to the housing analogy, how do you actually build a house? And that's brick by brick. So in this case, I think of it more as by product, by customer, by price as to what you're going to sell them. This then allows for all components of the business to build up together. Out of this, you then got action plans, lead times, promotional campaigns in each individual account, new product development. When is it going to get on the shelf in each of those customers? When is the price increase actually going to go through? How much of the price increase is something going to go through? And those key actions end up becoming cross-functional rather than vertical. And that's where I think it's a key factor. Clearly, the sum total of the micro in the ideal world will add up to the macro. They never do at the first outset, and that's where the skill of using these tools is to make sure they do match up. Is the top line number too ambitious, or what do you need to do in terms of the individual account plans to make sure that they build up so that they do achieve the company's top line targets? Look, that does sound great in theory, but if I spend all my time planning, what am I actually going to be doing? A good planning tool should be that. It's a tool that significantly adds value, allows you to analyze the situation and do some very strong commercial plans accordingly. And it's adding value, which should encourage people to manage their accounts easily using the planning tools. If it's a planning tool for the sake of a planning tool that actually detracts from people doing their job and is a non-value added task, that's a waste of time in my opinion. Key points to realise though. A business planning tool is designed to cover all aspects of the business. So it's sales, marketing, production, finance, etc., etc. It's a simple point, but one that is frequently missed. And clearly there is a difference between a traditional sales target and a business plan. A lot of places previously have looked at the business in terms of silos. This is what sales are going to do. This is what marketing are going to do. This is what production are going to do. This is what finance are going to do. These business plans are trying to gel all of those small aspects, those aspects together, which is ideal for SMEs. It's key to illustrate the difference between a sales target and a business plan. So the traditional sales target, you have the salesperson, he or her, although it does look like a he in that illustration, sees a sales target of 100% and strives towards it. 100% target and they've got it. Excellent. First one to get there. But traditionally, the salesperson was encouraged to go beyond the sales target, and the achievement of 150 was patted on the back and given a traditional extra bonus. That's excellent in terms of a sales function, but in terms of a total business, that is not ideal. So the same scenario in terms of business planning terms. So same things as before. Looking at the business and the salesperson achieving really well. Excellent. But in terms of your business, the key thing is to be more focused. So say a business planning tool is for the whole business. It's not simply setting a sales target and trying to tag everything else on the back of it. So the analogy that I used in those previous examples is like a 100-meter race. Traditionally, first past the post won. But a business plan needs to be more accurate. It's more, if you think of it as an archery target, where in that previous analogy the runner had run off the board. 98% is actually more accurate than 115%. For a variety of reasons. The whole business needs to understand this. If you suddenly hit 115% of production lined up, 115% upside on all products, all customers, or there needs to be some flex, but you could have too much stock, you could have the wrong stock, your stock holding could be through the roof. What happens if they all come in at 85%? So you need to have a plan that pulls all the business together and everybody can see what they're doing. So there is the mindset that you do need to change. Because you could have all of that noise going on in the business, which is not necessary, if you get the business planning as accurate as you can do. It'll never be spot on, don't claim it to be, but it makes sure that everybody understands what they're doing and is aiming in the right direction. But what can you realistically expect out of these business planning tools? These are the outputs that come out. These are like the dashboard that help you point in the right direction. So you get a summary sheet. For this example, is an old one from 2003, which was a budget summary sheet. This is what the budget was for the account, and it shows volume, sales value, and contribution. You've then got a month. These can be designed whichever way you want your business to be. In this instance, it was a month-on-month performance with a variance between the previous sales, what went up, what went down from the previous month. These are designed to give you a top-line view of your whole business and allows you to drill down as you require to. What other things can you get out of it? Well, I find these to be very powerful. So you've got your sales value by month, and this, when it's run properly, becomes a rolling promotion, rolling forecast with actuals landing on top of the running forecast during the year. But in this instance, that looks quite nice on the top left on sales value. But what if your largest sales volume you've ever done was 1 million? How have you got to 1.4 million targets in for the end of the year? Are they achievable? Are the products in place? Is the marketing support there? is it going to be sufficient to break the 1.2 million target that you've never had before? It makes you think about it. You've then got like a pie chart that shows all the value of your accounts, making sure you've got a good blend of accounts. You've then got it in terms of value, of product type in this case. Is that the right mix for your products? Are you overly exposed or underly exposed on certain products? And then the bottom bar chart is just looking at your accumulated sales revenue and your contribution. Just checking everything is going in the right direction. But you design these around what you want your business to develop it to reflect. So, how do you go about developing a business planning tool? And I won't dwell on this for too long, but I'll give you some pointers on how to do it. Initially, do not overcomplicate things. Key thing is decide what inputs you want and what your outputs you want, and then glue the bits in the middle. It sounds quite simple. In reality, there aren't that many variables from the inputs point in terms of what products you sell, which customers, what prices, what promotional elements, what volumes, and figure out a way to capture all of those. Developing a business planning tool is quite important, really. Equally, you want to look at how you want the outputs to come. How do you want to look at and analyze those results? And then that helps you structure the whole business planning accordingly. So you might want it by customer type, either nationals or regionals. You might want to distribute between channels, wholesaler, distributors, export, for example, direct, indirect, online. Again, this can be tailor-made whichever way you want it to be for your business. Again, equally product types. Do you want to do it by key categories or do you want to do it by SKU? One of the key things is to understand how your production at factory works in terms of planning. Are they doing it by SKU? And how are they calculating their SKU figures? Are they taking the generic and splitting it on ratios in the past? Or what? Try and work together. There's not an answer, one answer fits all, but it's ideal if you can try and glue the bits together. All these illustrate a live, those charts we saw earlier from live, actual used live planning tools that have been used. This is designed to show the flexibility. These are being used across a range of industries. So I've used them from international blue chip companies where they've rolled this entire model out around the world to small SMEs and to startups. And they've covered a range of markets from medical devices, FMCG and construction. So they are tailor-made to meet the requirements that you've got. I also think it's important that these are all based on Excel. Firstly, because it's easy to use and nobody has to go out and buy any new software. They all can be created either in-house or created and then you manage them in-house. And staff training is on the benefits of the system and how the system works as opposed to how Excel works. The what-if scenarios to me is what made these come to life to me in the very first places that I started to use them. I was originally challenged at one of the places that I worked before we developed this system was we want to know what the sales value is going to be for the year and what the promotional expenditure is going to be, which are two perfectly reasonable questions. However, they weren't looking at the profitability, so I didn't know whether a large bog-off, a buy one get one free, or 3 smaller shelf features would be the most profitable. So I could then work those out using these models. As an account manager and all the other account managers that I introduced this system to, allowed them to manage their accounts profitably, and we migrated the focus on contribution and margin as opposed to sales value, which is far stronger in the commercial world that we operate in now. However, all of those things need to dovetail in and work in conjunction with all your other internal processes. What are your discretionary sales level? What are your approval processes? How is price reductions controlled? What are promotional expenditure systems in place? How do they all work to make sure the whole system works together? And this should then become the core business for the whole business, for production, finance, marketing, etc. Factors to take into consideration: who's going to build up the plans, what support will be available in terms of marketing help, understanding interactions, and also IT support. How much costing information will you give the team? Will you give them costs? All financials need to tie into the finance department, I think. How do you track variances and prices? Does a price reduction benefit the sales team, or does it benefit the buying team? How do you actually get the actuals and the plans in together? And that comes back to the planning, so it ties in with your finance department. Looking at considering whether it's worth tracking your accuracy levels or whether that's a distraction, and if so, what time frames to consider. And then managing the difference between the macro and the micro and gluing the two. The key thing is making sure that the micro builds up to your business plan, the 2 to 3 year business plan that the business has got. So wrapping it up, the central business tool is key in the current climate. It's like a sat nav. It shows you where you're going to go. It identifies what issues are on the way and allows you to do what if to find alternative routes. And it identifies where you're likely to end the year, so you can plan accordingly. Are you going to have a very good year or a slightly worse year? But you know in advance. Should be a valuable tool that adds value. If it doesn't, you've got it incorrect. Don't use it.